Colleagues, this book of Open and Distant Education, or ODE in Asia, is an important contribution from AAOU members and dedicated to the global ODA field. It will be continued in subsequent series and is anticipated to enrich references to ODE practices.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon. It is very good to see you again to the newest series of AAOU Webinar with the theme Philosophical Foundation of the Future of Open, Flexible, and Distant Learning. On behalf of AAOU Secretariat, I would like to thank you all for joining. Today we have two distinguished speakers and also our honorable moderator. To start, I would like to invite the President of AAOU to deliver a welcoming remark. Please welcome Prof. Ojat.
Okay, thank you so much, Melvina. And hello, good afternoon, everyone, and assalamualaikum, and welcome to the first AAOU Webinar Series 2023. I'm delighted to meet you all again here on the newest series of AAOU webinars. On this fresh start of 2023, let's hope for a more remarkable year, be more productive and prosperous year. This is also why AAOU is still here, providing a sharing knowledge forum for everyone keen to learn in the field of distant educations. We hope every program we initiate will always give the audiences with broader understanding and knowledge of the recent and current issues. For today's webinar, I am pleased to welcome our honorable keynote speakers, Prof. Tian Belawati, Professor at the Faculty of Education and Teacher Training, Universitas Terbuka, and thank you very much for accepting our invitations. Then the second speaker, Professor Mohammad Abdollahi, a member of the Research Council of the Comtech Inter-Islamic Network on Virtual Universities, or CINVU. Assalamualaikum, Prof. Abdollahi, and thank you very much for your contribution in our AAOU Meet webinars. And of course, one of the most important persons to lead our sharing today, Moderator, Prof. Gorky Sembiring from Universitas Terbuka. Everyone, since 2022, the AAOU has conducted 3 series of webinars. And today, our webinar will focus on philosophical foundations of the future of open, flexible, and distant learning. As we are all aware, 3 years since the emergence of COVID-19 pandemic 2020, open, flexible, and distant learning has been attracting unprecedented interest in education all over the globe. Open, flexible, and distant learning has become increasingly popular everywhere, including in developing countries like in our country, Indonesia. Integrating technology in education, especially in instructional process, has become a very challenging endeavor for different education institutions, including in conventional universities. As a result, there is a need to understand the philosophical foundations of these types of learning, especially now that the pandemic has begun to subside. Hence, we will get some different insights and listen to our expert today to give us more ideas regarding the mentioned issue. And I will not talk too much here because I know everyone is eager to watch and listen to the discussion sessions. So, ladies and gentlemen, keep yourself seated, have some snack nearby, and be actively engaged. And thank you very much for taking the time to attend our webinar. Stay safe and have a good day. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Prof. Ojat, for the welcoming remarks. Now we come to the main agenda today. The moderator for today's webinar is Professor Maximus Gorky Sembiring, the professor at Universitas Terbuka Indonesia. Before I hand over the floor to Prof. Gorky, please allow me to introduce him. Okay, Prof. Gorky pursued his bachelor in mathematics from University of Sumatera Utara, Indonesia, and his master's at the same subject from the University of New England. His doctoral degree of educational management was pursued from Jakarta State University or Universitas Negeri Jakarta, and he was also certified in public speaking and research reviewer. Prof. Gorky is currently the professor and a member of the Faculty Senate at the Faculty of Education and Teacher Training, Universitas Terbuka. And before, he was the director of the Center for Research and the Center for UT Overseas Student Services, and also the Vice Rector for Institutional Development and Partnership from 2003 up to 2011. And Prof. Gorky was also the AAOU Secretary General from 2009 to 2011. Okay, everyone, I will directly invite Prof. Gorky to lead the webinar. Prof. Gorky, time is yours.
Thank you, Ibu Wina. Hi, everyone. I'm very happy today because I think it's not only me will be happy. I think all of us will be grateful because we have two distinguished speakers. The first one is Ibu Tian Belawati. Ibu Tian Belawati was from Universitas Terbuka. When she was a rector of the Universitas Terbuka, I was one of her boys because I was the what do you call it, vice rectors when Ibu Tian was director of Universitas Terbuka, and also when Ibu Tian Belawati was the president of AAOU. I am also in charge of Secretary General, as Ibu Wina said. So Ibu Tian, later on we'll be also have a chat with Professor Abdollahi. But first of all, I would like to have your insight. Let's say within these 10 years, we are faced by Industrial 4.0. Following by Industrial 5.0 or Society 5.0. But prior to that, we also faced by globalization 1.0 and also 2.0 if you like. And suddenly, within this the past 3 years, we are confronted with pandemic COVID-19. And it is good, I think, for not only for me, but for all of us, to see how you would relate this industrial revolution, for example, due to the globalization, and lastly, with the pandemic COVID, especially with the open distance education, and now we call it as our theme, open flexible distance learning. And I was informed by the Secretariat that you will be talking about philosophical foundation of OFDL, especially in the post-COVID-19. I think this will be very interesting and also good for us because you are not only familiar with our Indonesian context, but also you have a previous experience as a president of ICDE, and also you are involved in many other international bodies for education, especially in distance education. So I think it is good for you, it's good for me, and also for us all, if you have, let's say, 30 minutes to give your perspective, how would be the philosophical foundation of open, flexible, and distant learning, especially when we see it from what we face within these 3 years. That's post COVID-19. Ibu Tian, you have 30 minutes for that. Thank you. I think you have to unmute first.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Well, thank you very much for the time given to me, and thank you also for inviting me to speak at this webinar. So, yes, I was requested by the AAOU to a little bit talk about philosophical foundation of the future of open, flexible, and distance learning. And thank you for already paving the way for me, Pak Gorky, in your introduction. So just, not to, can I share my screen now?
I think you are allowed
given
now,
the
yes.
permission to share screen?
Yeah, okay.
May I, Ibu Lidwina, may I just operate my own?
Yes.
Can I?
Yes, we will make you the co-host. Yeah.
Yes, please do. Can I now? Let's see.
Yes.
Okay, so just give me some sec. Yeah, can everybody see the slide already?
Yeah, you all right?
Okay. Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to meet all of you again in this virtual platform. I'm very happy to be here in Jakarta. Here is in the afternoon and it's very bright. I was asked to discuss a little bit about the philosophical foundation of open, flexible, and distance learning, especially post-COVID-19. So let me start by, taking back of our open and distance education that we have so far. And if we talk about distance education or open and distance education since the very beginning, actually we are talking about access. And this access has been has been the main reason why open and distant education was adopted and introduced to the people. This philosophical foundation of access since the very beginning was taken based on our belief that education is a public good and therefore everyone has the right to education. And because we have a shortage of capacity in our educational system, so people were trying to search of an educational model that can give or provide access to the masses. It is also believed that by applying open and distance education, we are actually increasing the openness of our educational system. And the philosophical foundation of access is also based on the belief that we have that education does promote social justice to the people and enhances the socio-economic mobility of the society. So if we remember of the history of the practice of open and education, this is very much the reason behind the adoption of the open and distance education system. So for example, let's take a look at the Open University, the first open university in Asia, and also the second open university in the world, which is the Allama Iqbal Open University in Pakistan. Allama Iqbal Open University was founded with the objectives to provide opportunity to higher education to the masses and also to the people who are already in the workforce. So again, the reason behind the establishment of the Open University in Pakistan was to provide access based on the belief that it is the obligation of the government to provide access to education to all the people. And the success of Open University in Pakistan, or the Allama Open University, was followed by other countries. And as for example, Indonesia, Thailand, and then Iran, China. So everybody, every country was then trying to adopt and contextualize open and distance education as we modeled it from the Open University of UK and then from Open University, the Allama Iqbal Open University. And as the result, the legendary book written by Sir John Daniel, for example, back in 1998, listed 7 out of the 10 mega universities in the world are the open universities in Asia. So this again exemplified the reason of providing us access as the philosophical foundation of open and distance education in the past. Yeah, and right now Asia has been like the biggest probably and the biggest provider as well as beneficiaries of open and distance education in the world. AAOU, for example, right now AAOU has about 44 full members and it has served more than 10 million students. And in Southeast Asia alone, or in the ASEAN countries, we have more than 8 OUs now, and we serve about 1 million students. So again, access really is the common element of open and distance education for Asia, I think also in the world. But we have to remember that these are all of these emerged before the internet era. So the open universities, the mega open universities in Asia, which are based on the philosophical foundation of access, were introduced and then practiced within the era we had internet. But of course, you know, even though we didn't have the internet at that time, distance education or the open universities always depends on technology. We are always very bold in applying technology for administrative and operational activities, as well as for student record system. And in fact, student record system has been the backbones of almost all open universities in Asia. With the development of technologies, of course, with the advancement of technologies, Prof. Gorky Sembiring already mentioned that we have gone through a different generation of the World Wide Web, and we have gone through, you know, the Industrial Revolution 4.50 that has introduced more advanced technologies. And so are the open universities in Asia, as well as the other open and distance education player in the world, taking up the technologies and becoming modern open and distance learning practices. And these technologies, of course, because of its power, increases the openness of our system. Because, for example, in Indonesia, if before we can only serve or you know, cater to our students within certain boundaries of Indonesia, with the technology, we can now have students all over the world in more than 50 countries. And I think that is the same case with the other open universities in Asia, and in fact with other universities providing ODL in the world. And with the technology, also, we increase interactivity within the learning system of the ODL. Before, you know, especially during the conventional distance learning, where we are really much depending on printed materials, the interactivity can only provide it in the face-to-face tutorial meetings, for example. But with the learning management system now, we can provide interactivity almost in daily basis. You know, in fact, you know, with asynchronous interactivity system in the LMS, we could practically, you know, provide access to the student to interact with us and with their own peers 24/7 a day. So there's no, and because of this higher and more intensive interactivity, it is also believed that modern ODL has more quality in terms of learning experiences for the students, because students now get to be more involved and engaged in their own learning, as well as with their own peers and us at the university. And we also know that technologies allow us now to personalize the learning system. Students can now, especially with the asynchronous distance learning, learning at their own pace, you know, and we can personalize their website. So it really addressed their personal needs. And with that, of course, we increase the flexibility of our provision or our services in providing open and distance learning to our students. So modern ODL increases the openness, increases the interactivity, and thus quality, and also the personalization and flexibility of the system. But modern ODL also shows the limitations, because modern ODL very much depends on the internet. So we are then very much depend on the connectivity. And as we know, the connectivity is one of our biggest enemy in distance education, for distance education provision in the developing countries like in Indonesia. So the modern ODL also show the devil of the digital divide. So for example, now in Asia, you know, the population in Asia, is 54.9% of the world population is in Asia. However, the internet penetration rate in Asia is only about 63.8%, compared, for example, with the, say, North America, where the population is only 4.7% of the world population, but the penetration rate is over 93%. So you can see the digital divide among continents. And even within Asia itself, the digital divide still exists. And even within the country itself, the digital divide still exists. And then if we look at the language used in the internet, which also will dictate the connectivity of the people to the information and learning resources in the internet, as we can see from the data, the 63% of the internet content is very much in English. So it means the people who are not speaking English or do not understand English quite well, they do not get the advantage of the ample learning resources in the internet. So this is also a kind of digital divide. And the modern ODL is also loaded with this problem. Now, the COVID-19, of course, it's, you know, it's like that we didn't have enough problems already before the COVID. Then the COVID hit us. And we know that the COVID has become the biggest disruptor, you know, in all aspects of our life, including in education. In fact, I think it's the biggest education disruption in history, because it closes all schools and campuses in all over the world. And it has affected so many students all over the world. According to the UN, it affected around 1.6 billion learners in more than 190 countries. And everyone were forced to move or to convert their education system into using distance learning system. So we suddenly have new players or new user of distance learning system. And this COVID-19, the disruption and the force for moving everyone who used to be studying or learning in the conventional way of learning, you know, inside the brick or mortar classes, has also accentuated the trends created by the Industrial Revolution 4.0, which are especially regarding the automation and the wider digital divide. And data has showed us that this has become a very the biggest obstacle for the new player of open and distance learning during the COVID-19, because they had to move to open and distance, or maybe not open, but distant education system without proper preparation, without proper planning. They just have to do it, you know, jump into the wagon and just do it. Okay. So the COVID-19, according to the data, has increases the use of online learning platform up to 200 and 300% in India, in Japan, in Korea, in South Korea, in the United States. Yeah, the use of online platform increases from 200 to 300%, and also in Asia as a whole as well, the same. And then, of course, this use of online learning platforms are increasing the user of online learning itself. And it has increases actually up to 400% according to the internet data. And this has suddenly created a new significant numbers of people who are not used to working or studying in distance learning platform to have to use or to work on the platform of online learning. And with regard to MOOCs, for example, according to Coursera, the data they gathered like within a few months, just after the pandemic or after the COVID-19 outbreak, which is probably around July or August 2020, the increase of MOOC participants already reached over 100%. So these are very, very phenomenal. The increase of online learning, very phenomenal. Like for us in Indonesia, we used to be the only player who are providing distance learning or online learning in Indonesia. And now we suddenly are just one of the over 4,000 higher education institutions who offer online learning. So the increase is like more than a frog leap. And we have to also look at the data, the facts among new ODL users, according to studies, that most popular practice during the pandemic is providing online learning through synchronously using the video conferencing platform like Zoom, Google Meet, Team, etc. So this is showing to us that what they do is they are moving the classroom teaching into the mediated classroom teaching, still very much in the design of face-to-face lecturing. And this happens to be the most popular practice of ODL or distance learning during the COVID. And we also see from the studies and the survey done by various agencies that many people had difficulties due to limited connectivity to the internet and also lack of technical skills in navigating maybe the learning management system and also navigating the content provided online, the digital content provided online. I think many studies have shown this. I don't have the references right now, but if you just search in the internet, you will find it very easily. And in case of Indonesia, and I also read in the UNESCO report that is also happened in many developing or small countries in the Pacific, for example, many school learners or students are using handphone for doing the schooling through the internet or the online learning. And in many cases, they only have one handphone for one whole family. So you can imagine if in one household, they have 3 children all going to school, maybe one to the universities, one high school, and one maybe secondary school, then they only have one handphone to use. So you can imagine how effective can that be, that online learning in that kind of circumstances. And the data also show that there are so many social media also being used during the COVID for online learning that they provide. And the popularity of social media and video conferencing or conferencing application for providing lessons during the COVID is due to its affordability and not so high internet spatial requirement for connectivity. So these are the facts that we learned from studies and survey during the COVID for online learning during the COVID. We also see that, having said that there are so many obstacles and so many limitations of using online learning during the COVID, but we also see that students really like the flexibility offered by the online learning system. They really like to having access to the materials after passing the lesson hours. Because when they go to school, usually after the lesson in the class, they have to go back to the bulky books. But in the online learning, they usually will still be able to go back to the summary or to the synopsis, to the PPT provided by the lectures, etc. So they like that flexibility. And they also like the flexibility they could visit and open again the materials at any time of the day and any day of the week. So they really love it. And students also like the availability of other extra learning materials. As we know, if we are using online learning, we could also give links or even provide the downloaded extra materials that have been developed by others, for example, from the repository of open educational resources, that would enhance and enrich the students' learning experiences. And apparently, students do appreciate and like those external learning materials. Students also like the personalization of the learning pace, when they can, start the learning in their personal spot, and then they stop at any time they prefer, and then continue again at their own pace. So they really like that. So overall, students like the power of control over their own learning. They feel like they have the power of control. So these are the facts that has been revealed by many studies from the learning experiences, from the perception of students during the COVID-19. And I myself conducted a survey back in 2021, and the survey was completed by over 80,000 students from more than 200 universities in Indonesia. And my survey, or our survey, revealed that the most mentioned obstacle, as I have mentioned earlier, is related to the technical aspect, mostly about the connection to the internet. And the most mentioned benefits are related to the online learning effectiveness and flexibility. And this is not, this flexibility they refer is not only the flexibility, for example, in the distance that they now can do it from home, even maybe without taking a bath first or taking a shower first, but they also like the flexibility of the learning pace, and also that the flexibility of study time. Because they can now study at any time of the day and any day of the week, as I mentioned earlier. So we talk, I mean, just based on what I have just described from the previous studies, from the literatures that I read, it seems that the new philosophical foundations of open, distance, and this flexible learning. So we now actually learn about these new terminologies, because when the internet and the LMS entered, it has given birth to many new terminologies, including, for example, ubiquitous learning, distributed learning, and flexible learning. So the new philosophical foundation of the open, distance, and flexible learning, in my opinion, it has to be the flexibility, the personalization, and the empowerment of the learning design for students, so that students could feel that they are really in control and they are really having the power to navigate their own learning. So it will be over flexibility, personalization, and empowerment. And these three foundations are believed that will be able to help us to really do justice to education. Because when we talk about access, especially in the developing countries like Indonesia, actually it was also about trying to realize the constitution of the country, which is to provide education as a justice means, for the society, to democratize education, and also to create an egalitarian educational system. And so how to do it? Again, we should go to literature and to the research, and what research have said to us that technology actually help us to do that. If we really accentuate the use of technology wisely, we could really increase the personalization, the flexibility, and also the empowering of students in our learning system, in our design of the learning system. So the study said that in the future, we should increase the use of artificial intelligence, and then we have to widespread the adoption of virtual and augmented reality. And in fact, there is one study, actually a series of studies, saying that using the virtual and augmented reality is also effective for developing soft skills of the students. Yeah, and then the ODL in the future should also put greater emphasis on social interaction, and with the all media platform now, I think it's very possible for us to enhance our LMS to provide students with a higher social interaction. And studies also show that blended learning approaches can increase the personalization, can increase the empowerment, and can also increase the flexibility of learning, especially for students who are going to university, which are campus-based. Yeah, and of course, increase the use of open educational resources by not reinventing the wheels, by using all the ample materials that are already available into the internet. Then we would save some of the limited resources that we have by our own, and use that for other things that is more potential to increase the quality of our offline learning experiences for the students. And at the policymakers level, according to UNESCO and UN, the policymaker should put more commitment to strengthen the education as common goods. The Constitution has already mentioned that education is a common good, but do we realize that in other, derivative regulation? Do we realize it in our budget planning so that really education can really become a common good? And then policymakers should put equity and inclusion at the center of efforts. And this is also very important. I think the Philosophical foundation is that we have to expand the definition of the right to education to include connectivity to the internet. Because if we don't give the connection to the internet, then some of the rights of the people will get eliminated. And governments should support OERs to ensure contextuality and relevance of free and easy access digital content. So overall, we have to remove barriers to connectivity by investing in digital infrastructure and reducing connectivity costs. In Indonesia, for example, I just learned a few months ago that prior to the COVID-19, digital infrastructure was not categorized as basic infrastructure. And because of that, government money cannot be used to invest in building the IT infrastructure. And that's why in the past, Indonesia was trying to push the investment for IT digital into the private sector through their social responsibility or CSR. But after the COVID, then the government came to realize that it is a basic necessity. There's IT infrastructure is a basic infrastructure needed by the people. Then they changed the category. And now, according to the information that I received, starting this year, the government then could really budget it to really develop the IT infrastructure from the government money. So I think that is one of the impact of the COVID-19 given to the policymakers. And in the future or in the near future, we also have to bridge the digital divide by investing for digital investment in digital literacy for marginalized population. Because even if the connectivity is there, but if the people cannot use it because they don't have enough digital literacy, then it will not be too useful. And at I'm sorry. sorry. And at the end, even though the technology already advances now, we should also still use appropriate technology. So if the technology that is appropriate for our context is low tech or not tech at all, it should also not be forgotten. So I think within this framework or this paradigm and philosophy that we have to move forward in our effort in providing access to the people through open, distant, and flexible learning system. So thank you very much for listening to me, and I will return the time to Prof. Gorky Sembiring. Thank you, Pauki.
Yes, thank you, Tian. Before we move to Professor Abdollahi, let me give my impression to what was presented by Professor Belawati. We don't see, at least in my view, we don't see a COVID-19 pandemic as merely a curse, but it is also blessing. It doesn't mean that we are not suffering from the pandemic, but beyond that, it seems that justice to education for all, according to what was explained by Ibu Tian Belawati, that justice to education for all, especially for the marginalized population, for example, it can be bridged because of the technology. Due to the technology, and then it leads to flexibility, personalization, and empowerment. I think this is in line with our, at least in Indonesian context, it is in line with our national constitution. And it will be very nice, not only for Indonesian, for example, but also to our friends. Like I see my brother here, Dr. Jahid Mazid from Pakistan, Allama Iqbal Open University. I think we are on the same situation if we can try to use this, how to do it. That's what Ibu Tian said just now, and also Dr. Thiru from Malaysia Open University. I think this perspective is not only for Indonesian actually, but also to all of us who have a similar condition with Indonesia due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
I think there's always a silver lining, to everything, including to COVID-19.
I think I'm in the right track if I said that this is not merely a curse, but also to a certain extent, this is a blessing also for us. Is it okay, Mutian?
Yeah, I mean, there is always a silver lining of everything, right? The silver lining for COVID, of COVID, for example, it really shows us what is the basic necessity of our lives to be, in this digital era, I think, and that has realized the decision makers, the policy makers, and also has, for us, for example, it helped us, promote the open distance and online learning to more people. Yeah.
As you said, also this is another side how we see due to the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic. There is also technicalities aspects as a problems and also the digital divide, as you said. But if we can handle it properly, it will come to accessibility, interactivity. We call it in one word, maybe flexibility. So it will fulfill a personal needs, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Ibu Tian. So we'll be inviting Professor Abdollahi. But before that, I would like to inform all the participants about our webinar regulation. Ibu Wina, may you please share the webinar regulation, and also I would like to say thank you very much to all of us. I see here about 121 participants from all over the world. So for all of us, if you have some kinds of maybe suggestion or response to what Ibu Tian and later on Professor Abdollahi will present, before you sending your questions, write your details as follows: name, institution, country, and intended speaker you want to give your questions or comments. For example, let's say my name is Gorky, Universitas Terbuka, Professor Abdollahi. Means that I ask a question, so I give comment to Professor Abdollahi. And then a question will be firstly read by the moderator once it is displayed on the screen, and the speaker may answer afterwards. So there's another information for all of us. Requisites of getting the certificate. But the first one, we have to filling out the registration form in advance. I think all of us did this one. And then following the whole programs. After that, filling out the feedback form. And after doing that, the link will be shared after the program, and you will be having the certificates. Okay, thank you very much. Now we are moving to Professor Mohammad Abdollahi. Professor Abdollahi is from Tehran University Medical Science. I think this will be very truthful for us because apart from very active in open flexible distance learning, I think we'll be having some insights from Professor Abdollahi because of his backgrounds. I may say different backgrounds because Professor Abdollahi is from Tehran University Medical Science. If we see here his experiences start from the beginning, his involvement in educational sectors, I think we are very lucky to have Professor Abdollahi. Before I invite you to present your presentation, Philosophical Foundation of OFDL, do you have any comments on what Professor Belawati just now present? At least if we see from, let's say, from Iranian context, and then you will be having about 30 minutes to present your presentation. Please, Professor Abdollahi.
Thank you so much for having me in this webinar. I am very proud that I can share my ideas, my thoughts with you. And before going forward, I would like to introduce myself somehow better to become familiar with me. First of all, I have been appointed as the Secretary of the Research Council of the CINVU, I mean the network of virtual universities. This was the start of my collaboration with this center, becoming familiar with the extent of the work that we have to deal with. My background is that I am a pharmacist at the first stage. After getting my doctorate in pharmacy, I continued my study at the Ph.D. level of pharmacology and toxicology. I started then a fellowship in almost mechanistic toxicology, pharmacology, and the clinical one. All of this gave me the potential to do some actions at the country level. For example, I established Tehran Drug and Poison Information Center, and then extended this activity to other provinces of Iran. So I can say at the moment we have more than 30 DPICs over the country that you know how they work just with a phone and answer the very critical questions that sometimes cannot be answered by the practitioners, pharmacists, physicians, nurses, and even common people. But the answer to these people is different, and we have to educate this to the new persons who come to cooperate in DPICs. This was my first, work in the public. It gave me very interesting feeling that we first must go to the common people. These common people are father and mother or parents or supporters of the young people. The young people sometimes are not sure in which field they have to continue their study, which kind of procedure of studying is helpful to them or much better. When I was in Toronto in 2001, I saw that the University of Toronto, that is one of 10 top universities of the world, was not even aware of these things, as you mentioned, that are prepared, and some universities are equipped with devices that are used for distance learning. This is very interesting to me. But at the moment, they have gone to this education too, like the Islamic countries. So this is kind of proud for Islamic countries that decided to also this activity and continue graduation, education, and learning new persons in these fields of study just virtually. So after that, just introducing myself, I have been the chair of the Department of Toxicology and Pharmacology several times, and I have been director of the specialty board of toxicology and pharmacology for 10 years. These gave me the possibility to empower the curriculum of the education of toxicology and pharmacology to residents, and just help them graduate very professionally, knowing sophisticated software programs, and use them in the public. After that, I have been a founder of Pharmaceutical Sciences Center and also the Ethics Committee. And then I expanded this center to an institute. It became Institute of Pharmaceutical Sciences. But the experience was not good, and I learned that being small in every aspect of, I mean, the volume, the people, the persons, the structure, the fundamental, everything is much better than making a big center, big complex of people with lower, activity and specifications. So after making these centers, I have been the chair of Central Library of Tehran University of Medical Sciences. This means that it gives me idea how to use virtual documents for the students, because there was no book available in the library. It was virtual, everything was virtual. It gives me more experiences, how to make a center virtually at the level of a central library that is going to be used for almost 800 new students every year. And after that, I have been founded and then chaired the Direct Discovery and Evaluation Department and at the National Institute of Medical Research Development. It gave me the opportunity to assign virtual activities like artificial intelligence, just deep learning, or machine learning to the curriculum of the students and making the policymakers familiar with such new things. So at the moment, our people in the government know how much artificial intelligence is important, how much its data can be used by students, by people, by the academics. This is very important, and even by the public. Then I have been Vice Chancellor of the international activities of the School of Pharmacy, and then I go to international level, and I have been one of individual members of AAOU, a big association of toxicologists and pharmacologists located in the Europe. And then I went to COPE, Committee on Publication Ethics, that is virtually handled, managed, and its center is located in the UK, but it has almost 100,000 journals subscribed to this center, and they get advice from that. And in the cases of complaints or something like that, COPE can give very sophisticated, very specific answers to the questions, conflicted questions, challenging questions that happen between authors, between publisher and the journal and the center. And then I joined to OPCW, Organization for Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. That is a center located in The Hague, Netherlands. It was a good experience for me as a toxicologist to be helpful to other members worldwide to release very fundamental information and knowledge about any chemical or biological that can be misused as a chemical weapon. This is important for the world. After that, I joined to actually in 2005, I got the most prestigious award of the Islamic World Academy of Sciences for my activities in the field of pharmacology and toxicology. And then I became a fellow of the YAS. And now I am in the council of the YAS. I can be more helpful to you. By this position, I have in the council of the YAS. It is a big society, big association, very smart people, are selected on the basis of their activities, scientific activities, and some of them becomes fellow. So I can recommend this to many scientists of the Islamic country to try their chance to be a fellow, a member of the YAS. And then in 2021, I got the award of Essential Science Indicator that is now handled by Clarivate Association company, scientific measurement, and they selected for 2021 just one person in medical sciences, and it was me in the whole country, Iran, I mean. There were some others from other countries, but it is almost 20 years or even higher that I am among 1% scientists of the world in the fields of pharmacology and toxicology and agricultural sciences and clinical medicine. After that, to finish my jobs and experiences, I have to say that I founded a new journal by the help of Elsevier, and they published it. The name of that journal was the Journal of Medical Hypotheses and Ideas. It grows very well, and at the moment it has stopped because of the the people who have to be in the editorial board of this journal and work better must be knowledgeable in the fields of kind of inventions, innovations, and patents, something like that. Every paper that is published in this journal have the chance to be accepted as an invention. And then I am still editor-in-chief of a very specific journal in the field of pharmaceutical science that is published by Springer Nature. And I invite all members to try their chance by submission their articles to this journal. And then newly I became the member of IFIA, International Federation of Invention and Innovation Association. This is very important center under authority of the United Nations. And at the last committee and seminar, the main exhibition that is made in Kuwait, I could get 6 medals in my with the cooperation of my students, 1 student and 2 residents. So, and then at the moment, my field of research in the Comstek and CINVU is new, and I am trying to find new ways to make good connections between Islamic countries in making new ideas to to real. For example, during the pandemic of corona, I just wondered why some Islamic countries couldn't invent, or at least couldn't set up complete production of a specific vaccine for corona, because the technology of vaccines is very famous and very common in Islamic countries, pharmaceutical companies. So this has been a new idea I gave to Comstock co-workers and colleagues, that we must have a pharmaceutical company in the line of biological field to make vaccines. Because of climate change, we think that we will have new viruses, new microbes that will attack people. In the meantime, we don't know which one of these microbes will be spread and will attack, invade the people of the world. For instance, the pandemic of corona was a good example and experience for all of us that indicated most of us are not prepared for such a big disaster, worldwide level disaster. And so we have to work together. We have to share our ideas, our knowledge about such things. I think organization like AAOU are centers that we have to spread and share our ideas. We have to make a group, at least an email group, to share the ideas between focal points between the persons who are in this meeting and can manage as a representative of their country by sharing information. And hopefully we can make ourselves, Islamic countries, very strong in overcoming any disaster, any microbial disaster, like the case of corona in future. So at the moment, I can say that the idea of philosophical foundation, idea of open, flexible, and distance learning is not a new idea, but is considered a new action, a new motivation, a new, social agreement between countries to expand it. So we have to deal with its real, true definition, pros and cons of these complex philosophical foundations, and examples from Iran that I have and I want to share with you. You know, according to definition, I can say that most of the terms go for OFDL just mention, pay attention to the following characteristics: open and distance learning. ODL can be simply described as learning studying at a distance, far away, not just in the presence of the teacher and students. The teacher and learner are separated both in the space and in the time. Today, two terms are being used almost interchangeably. These are open learning and distance education, and they are often combined to be known as Open and Distance Learning, ODL. This system, as I told, is not new, but it has some pros and cons that are found at the moment. Most clearly, at the moment, we know that what kind of problems it may have in different countries. For example, if I start with the pros, it is flexible for us. Everybody, the learner can stay at home and has a specific schedule for himself to learn and to go to the references and to participate in the class. And then this brings us comfort for the person who wants to learn, because he doesn't need to travel just inside the city or outside the city. The expenses become lower, affordable for the learners. Instant support and updates. You know, most of the time, the teacher, if wants to update students about some new things that he has learned or she has learned, she has to go to the class, have to hold meetings, special things to update them and give them just papers, just books, introduce books to learn and study them. Then what in the form of OFDL, we don't need that. Just instant support and updates can be made in 1 second by sending an email, by just updating the website of the learner and the teacher. And then this is a lower cost for the students. So most of the students like this. Expenses is something not affordable for some people. Unfortunately, in Islamic countries, if compared with each other, some of them are very rich, some of them are very poor. So this affects, the students, the teachers, and the facilities, equipments needed for distance learning. From the cons, I can say that this technique sometimes might have costs for the teachers. Why? Because it needs high-speed computer, high-speed laptop that can be movable, can be updated regularly, can have updated software for use. At the moment, the important point is that there is no unique software for all of our learners. I mean, sometimes one university uses one kind of software and the other one uses other techniques. So this is, I think, these are differences between universities that make their ranking places, their chances to attract students more facilitated, more equipped, more easier. I mean, more students will be attracted. So at the other side, one of the cons of this system is that students must be disciplined, must learn some things that they should not do or they should do. They must be on time. In the meantime, there is nobody to give them alarm. Just get up, wake up, and this is the time of learning. So this is, this is self-regulated. Somebody who is regular in characteristics can be most successful. And on the other time, the learning styles are different. But the student or the learner don't need a specific style. This is not limited for the student or learner. For example, if one learner could become expert in the use of Zoom or perhaps Skype or some alternative software, can be more successful than others. So these are things that we have to think about and make them unite for the people, for the universities who work in the world and are in the network of CINVU. We can say that the student can be independent, and this is kind of independent study because two critical characteristics of independent study are dialogue and individualization. Dialogue can be higher if the teaching is going to be just between teacher and the learner. He can ask his questions that in the social big class, he might hesitate to ask this question. So
excuse me, Professor Abdollahi, about two more minutes, please.
Yes, 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Yeah. Okay, I have to. So please spread my slides to all, and I go to experiences of Iran by the introduction of Payam Nur University, the first one. It been established in 1988. This is kind of very smart and sophisticated virtual university at the moment. But at the other point is the Comstock Inter-Islamic Network on virtual university that is called CINVU. Iran is the host of this program, and at the moment, many universities from different parts of the world have been joined to this network. So this is very good news that we, at the moment, should unify our activities and efforts in one place. That would be CINVU protocols, CINVU strategies, CINVU protocols should be verified by the member universities. And then I'm going to finish because of time. Payam Nur University has been very successful activity for Iran, because at the moment we have even Ph.D. level graduates who know very well. This is the small building of this center in Tehran, located in Tehran. And I would like to suggest that we need a network of email between all of us, a network in the LinkedIn, a network in WhatsApp, just to share our ideas and making ourselves expert and smart by sharing our knowledge between us and together. Thank you so much. I have many things to say, but because of time, I have to shorten. But I'm very thankful of all the university who have joined CINVU and try to unify their activities at the country level with the world level. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Abdollahi. Before we have some questions or comments from our audience, I would like to inform us, all of us, that the participants of our webinar today, almost 130 participants, they are all from Indonesia, Pakistan, Malaysia, Turkey, South Korea, Hong Kong, and Bangladesh. And some of the participants have given the questions and comments, and later will be answered by our two distinguished speakers. Before we move to the questions, Professor Abdollahi, just now you
just excuse me, you can call me Professor Mohammad.
Oh, Professor okay. Mohammad. Oh, sorry. Yeah,
Mohammad
okay.
is famous.
Okay. Excuse me. Okay. You said just now that OFDL, actually, it is not a really new idea, but it must be with a new motivation, with new reaction when we are faced by some kind of problems. If it is a problems not in the medical science, for example, as your background, and then how you describe the OFDL if we try to put it on the medical science field of studies, for example. Maybe you may give us some, let's say, examples or best practices how the OFDL can convince us all that they are as good as, let's say, other conventional delivery mode. Please, Professor Mohammad.
Very good question. It is specific to medical sciences, but it is important for all of us to get ideas for similar issues if we have. For example, virtual pharmacy, virtual examination of the patient, virtual visits. Sometimes people travel from one city or one country to other country just to be visited by an expert medical, professor. In such cases, we have to move to new techniques such as metaverse. Yeah. Metaverse is like that. We can, with the use of three-dimensional imaging, we can have just a movie. We can have feel that we are at that place and just examine the patient carefully. And this is like the exact true case when we visit the patient. Or in the case of the pharmacy, for example, the patient have different kinds of medicine that he has to administer to himself. He has questions about the use of them. How should be kept in the fridge or in the normal temperature? How should be injected by an insulin syringe or not a normal syringe? Or questions like these. All of them need consultation with a pharmacist or medical doctor just to give the best answer just in little time possible without movement inside the city, travel, and this is very useful again for just saving money, saving fuel that is used for the car, saving traffic level, traffic jam, saving the time of the patient, and just keeping the patient in the safe side.
Maybe
this is an example.
Yeah, maybe you may give us some examples during the, let's say during 2022 when the COVID came unwittingly, and then do you have any examples on what would be the response from the society, not from the university, about we deliver all the medical sciences program, for example, through OFDL? Do you have, maybe you have some insight about that?
Yes, good question. Actually, Corona experience was very useful for all of us because that time, for example, if the patient had been prescribed to use almost 5 medicines, 5 drugs, so there was critical questions how to use them. Which one should be used at the first, which one at the end? How many of the tablets should be used? How much should it be used? So the problems were a lot and the questions were a lot. But by the use of WhatsApp has been very helpful to all of us. In Iran, we used it between medical doctor and the patient. Just they could communicate. Even the prescription is made by the WhatsApp. And even the pharmacies accepted that prescription by showing them in the pharmacy that I have to use these medicines. It is prescribed by that medical doctor, for example, or that expert. So these are examples that we experienced, and they were very positive and helpful, experiences for us.
Okay, thank you, Professor Mohammad. It seems I am convinced now that even though it is delivered through OFDL, it doesn't matter whether it is because of medical science programs or other social science program. I think this is a good sign for all of us that the OFDL is the answer for the next delivery mode for future universities. Okay, dear colleagues, we are now trying to have some questions from the audience. There are 6 or 7 questions, but we see later on whether we can answer all the questions. Okay, we have a question from Durian Briani, Universitas Terbuka Indonesia. The question is to Ibu Tian Belawati. Ibu Tian Belawati, you mentioned that in order to implement effective education in post-COVID-19, we need to commit to strengthen education as common good. What is the difference between this commitment with commitment in other situations of education? I think maybe not only from the education sector, apart from education sector, how we differentiate that. Please, Ibu Tian.
Well, thank you very much for the question, Dewi. Yeah, I think the difference is that it has to be strengthened because I think in every constitution of a lot of countries, education has been acknowledged, maybe not explicitly, but acknowledged as a public good, and it has actually part of the human rights, the right to education. However, with the COVID-19, I think the COVID-19 outbreak has really shown us that actually our education system is very vulnerable. When the situation came that we have to close down all the campuses and the schools, the educational system that we had before the COVID apparently could not reach the people. We did not develop such a system that is robust to such a pandemic. And so when we have to close the schools, the learning has to stop, and then they were forced to go to a distance learning with no preparation, no planning, no infrastructure ready to support that kind of learning. So that means that the commitment to make education as public good that was probably stated in the constitution or in the regulation or the laws or the decrees or whatever it's called, the regulation, is not really supported by the realization of it in the development of the infrastructure to support that notion, to support the commitment. If the government is committed, if the people is committed that education is a common good, that means everyone has to have the access to the education. It means that the access to it through various modes, through various pathways have to be established. The infrastructures have to be built regardless whether regardless whether there is a pandemic or not pandemic. So if something happened, then it's just a matter of just moving very seamlessly. I think the difference is that means we need to strengthen it. Not that is we didn't commit to, but we have to strengthen it. Yeah.
Yeah. I may say that is as a prime needs.
Yeah. Okay. For example, by not categorizing IT infrastructure as a basic infrastructure, the governor could not budget, investment on IT infrastructure.
Yes.
That is, now that we have COVID, they changed the category. It means strengthen the commitment to it.
Okay, thank you. The next question, please.
Yeah, can I add something to this question?
Okay, please.
Actually, the COVID experience, made all of us medical groups assured that giving extra rules, making extra rules for such pandemic incidents is necessary. At the moment, we don't have it. Most of the countries don't have, such regulations specific for pandemics of corona. At the moment, we are in the resting level, or the pandemic is finished. So we have to write and define a specific regulation for such cases. There are many examples I can give you. For example, what is the difference between dexamethasone and betamethasone? Which one should we use? Which one should not be used? What is the difference between hydroxychloroquine or hydrochloroquine or chloroquine itself alone? Which one should be used? Sometimes we experience that many answers, many questions from different sources, and the answers are different from different persons. And we have to make a rule that all answers should be collected and reach to common people through a direct line. I mean, not from different persons, not from different associations, not from different experts, just from one expert who has decided that dexamethasone can be used or betamethasone cannot be used, or betamethasone is better to be used.
Okay.
There are answers at the moment for this question.
Yeah, thank you for the additional insights. The next question, this is to Professor Mohammad from Duri Andriani. Michael Moore define distance between teachers and learners in independent study as the degree of dialogue and individualization. In this current education situation, post-COVID-19, where almost all of education conducted via open and distance education, how do you think we could meet the needs of dialogue and individualization? Please, Professor Mohammad.
Yes, if it was just a simple question, which one do you prefer? Just in-presence teaching, in-presence dialogue, or dialogue through video call, to dialogue through tools of, like Zoom? My answer is just in-presence talk. Is much better. But what is the reason moves us to go to virtual? This is the, deficits we have. For example, we cannot establish university everywhere. in every rural places. We have not, we don't have enough experts to go to some poor places. These are, there are many other reasons that we cannot, continue establishing universities for such limited people. These are the reasons that we have to move and we have to work and make it better, the virtual facilities, and make it, sophisticated, very sophisticated for youth in future.
Okay, thank you. And the next question, please. Oh, this is from Halim, University College London, to Ibu Tian. How to enhance the quality of OFDL to be considered as good as the face-to-face learning amidst concern that the latter means the face-to-face, the latter is perceived better than the former is the OFDL, particularly post-COVID-19. Please, Ibu Tian.
Well, thank you for the question. Was that Amit?
Amidst
yeah, well,
ketika terjadi,
yeah, actually the doubt of about the quality of open and distance learning being second class or less than that of face-to-face learning was the biggest concern of ODL in the past. Actually, right now that concern has been somehow lessened. However, I think people are still, especially post the COVID, people are now comparing the quality of open and of distance learning as practiced by the people who just using distance learning during the COVID to what they usually had before the COVID, which is face-to-face. So that is actually not a quite not a quite fair comparison, because I think if we provide people with the evidence from the practice of open and distance learning from people who are already using that systems from the beginning, even before COVID, I think many studies have already proven that distance and flexible and distance learning can be as good, or in some cases even better than face-to-face learning. And why it can be better? Because the learning design can be personalized, the interactivity can be intensified, using the technology, and the integration of technology to the online learning is somehow easier than integrating it to the face-to-face learning, because many campuses are not equipped with, for example, the hardware where they can just show the virtual reality of an object, that is being studied. But in online learning, it's somehow integrated, and just one of the feature, for example, one in the LMS. So I think by using the right technology, first of all, by planning it correctly, preparing the students, preparing the lecturers and the teachers, for practicing or using the online learning system, and then designing the course itself in such a way that take advantage of the right and appropriate technologies to enhance the learning experiences. I think we can be, at par or even better from the face-to-face learning. And evidence of that is enormous now in the studies. But the key is not comparing the quality of learning of face-to-face learning, compared to the quality of online learning done by the same people who just use the online learning during the COVID only. That is not the apple-to-apple comparison. So, so I think that concern over quality and comparing the quality of face-to-face learning and online learning actually was no longer an issue prior to the COVID, but then become an issue again after the COVID because of that non-apple-to-apple comparison. But a comparison of the same people using different modes without proper preparation. I think that's what I think about your question.
Yes, there's another way how to see it. Yeah.
I hope that's clear. I'm a little bit stumbling.
Okay, we go to the next questions. From Dian Heriani, Universitas Aswasyah Medan, Indonesia. Professor Mohammad, could you show and give the newest international research finding by OFDL in current situation? What do you think about OFDL will be applied in early ages, young learners, with low academic literacy and digital literacy? Is it okay to apply OFDL in all level of education? Please, Professor Mohammad.
Yes, thank you. This is a good question. You know, at the moment, we need to learn what is OFDL. Distance learning might be needed for every student, every common people in future. I mean, sometimes sometimes in the past, we used to say that if somebody cannot, read something, he is illiterate. But at the moment, we have to say, if somebody cannot work with computer, he is illiterate. So this is kind of deficit if somebody couldn't use computer. And if computer learning education is started from the beginning, when the students are child and could learn much better, then they can make themselves ready for very sophisticated cases of learning. I mean, computer is something that we cannot avoid it. At the moment, in the 5-year strategy of many universities, almost all the universities, one thing is equal and similar between all of them, and that is artificial intelligence. So if you want to become an expert in the artificial intelligence system, you have to learn it from childhood when you are in the primary school. That's it.
Yeah. Okay, the next question. I think the next question is also to Professor Mohammad. Please. This is from M.Ed from Indonesia to Ibu Tian. The new philosophical foundation of OFDL are flexibility, personalization, and empowerment. For to do it, one of which increased use of artificial intelligence. So, according to Professor Tian Belawati, what is your response to ChatGPT for OFDL, which is currently viral in the world? Many thanks. Please, Ibu Tian.
Wow, Pak Mehmet also got the hype of ChatGPT, yeah. Okay, ChatGPT is a AI application that is designed on conversational style, yeah. So ChatGPT can help students as well as the lecturers in asking, like, in getting the ideas and also in getting answers to many questions. So I think, and it is. Actually, it's very interesting because in one of my WhatsApp group, this is like a very hot discussion in the past 5 weeks maybe, and the conclusion that we come up to in this WhatsApp group is that it is impossible for us to block ChatGPT from our students. It is impossible for us not to use ChatGPT, in our teaching experiences as well, and is our students' learning experiences. So what we have to do is to use it in a way that it would not disrupt that learning process. So for example, the way we ask questions to students, we have to be smarter so that students, even though they might get ideas from ChatGPT to the response, they still will have to personalize it. So I think we should go deeper into the reflective learning design, and also a deeper learning design for students. So the questions have to always ask the students to relate it to their own situation, to their own experiences. So even though they got the ideas from ChatGPT, they will have to still work on it and see how to make it make sense, to the question that we ask them. And also ChatGPT now also has created for us to screen, whether our students' answer is from ChatGPT or not. I haven't tried that yet, but it seems that it will be there soon. And ChatGPT will also soon be integrated into Google search. It will soon be integrated into Microsoft Word, Bings. So it will be everywhere. So I think it will just challenge us to create better questions that would intrigue students' reflective thinking, that would intrigue students' deeper learning, So it's not to be superficial, it's not to be in the lower level of thinking, even though ChatGPT sometimes can also provide higher order of thinking, I think, answer. But I think it's for us to embrace it. I think it's still in a very early stage now. It will still evolving, but soon I think the instructional designer would come up with a strategy how to embrace the AI in our learning design. It's a very challenging. I mean, ChatGPT is very new. It came out around November last year. But besides ChatGPT, actually there are many AI application that is also, that are also posing quite a challenge for us. All the applications that they have for engineering, for example, pictures, video, or animation. But ChatGPT is excel because it can understand the daily language and can answer in such a comprehensive way with a very good grammatical sentences, good grammar sentences. So that's what I think.
I think we need a special session for this in the next webinar, maybe. Okay.
Yeah, it would be interesting, but it's still it's still new, It's so we still know very little about this ChatGPT thing and what it, how it would affect really our distance learning design.
Okay, thank you, Tian. We still have some 5 to 6 questions, but it seems that we still have only 5 minutes. Okay, next, this is from, actually this is from my brother Zahid Mazid from Allama Iqbal Open University, and also similar question with Ibu Dian Heriani to Professor Mohammad. How many in percentage of Iranian universities implement OFDL? Do you have any number? Professor Mohammad, please.
Yes, good question. Actually, no, I cannot say the answer very precisely, exactly. What I think, I can assume it is about 20 to 30%.
Oh, 20 to 30, yeah, okay.
To 30, yes. And it has been very successful because they can be hired in good places, good jobs. They can get good tasks, and their knowledge is comparable to other ones.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, I think we will come to the last question for both Ibu Tian and also Professor Mohammad from Mudir Johan via Unilab. The questions, this is for both of you. How to change the thinking of students and parents regarding the desire to face-to-face learning with the old culture? Please.
First, the ladies are first, so I answer after.
Okay, go first. Yes.
Well, actually, this is a very difficult question. how to change the thinking of students and parents, especially parents. Yeah, I mean, that's why I said earlier that we have to thank COVID, to some extent, for promoting this open and online learning to the people, to the masses, to the society. Because as I said earlier, Universitas Terbuka was the only university that is massively using online learning, for about 25 years. We have been promoting this for over 25 years and for, not too much success. But then, the COVID, like within months, they all were forced to use the online learning. So I think we need to expose them to the beauty of the system. Unfortunately, during the COVID, because of the lack of preparation and training for the people involved, the online learning experience by many people are not that beautiful. But however, if we every time I was asked by schools or universities if I invited to seminars right now, I always said, we had the momentum during the COVID and after the COVID that, people are already familiar with the online system. People are already familiar with some of the software that are used for online learning. Don't lose that momentum. So even though now COVID is, relatively over, and then schools and campuses are being back open and they go back to the face-to-face learning, don't leave the online learning. Maybe it's better for them to keep it hybrid or keep it blended learning. So that way, the momentum of having studying or experiencing learning through online platform will be refined. Because now that we have more time to prepare the teachers, the lecturers, to give them proper training, to give them proper maybe acceleration in using the tools that can be used for online learning, then perhaps they can design really a good online learning system and design, so they can provide a proper online learning experience to the students. And by experiencing the nice features of online learning, like the flexibility, the interactivity of online learning, I'm sure sooner or later they would fall in love with this system, because it really is very powerful. There is no other educational system that gives a lot of control to the students. So when we talk about learner-centeredness, that is at the heart of the online learning, because the foundation of online learning is independent learning. And independent learning means taking initiative of your own learning and, giving the flexibility of directly on learning, taking the pathways any way you want. So I think once people know about that, then they would really change their concept and their mind about this online learning. And I'm sure they will never want to go back to the old culture. But it takes time. And therefore, for that, I think don't abandon the online learning that gain momentum during the COVID, even though now we already are allowed to have the face-to-face classroom teaching and learning again.
Okay, very comprehensive. Now, back to you, Professor Mohammad.
Okay.
With the same questions. Yeah.
Yes, this is critical question. If I answer positively, you say good. It is good for our open universities, the activities that we are going to make in the world. If I would be negative, you will say, oh, that person is negative to this technique and this kind of education. So why he is in such position in CINVU? So I have to be in a balanced situation. I have to say that if I were the person who asked about going to an in-person class or a virtual class, and there was no other bias or other things that could affect my decision, I would have selected in person. And I remember some times ago when I wanted to hire a specific just English language teacher for myself, she told me that we can do it by the virtual tools, and we can do it in person. I answered her that just to make sure by myself that you are a good teacher, I have to visit you at the first. I have to visit you because every action of you, every behavior of you can be understood from your face, from your body language, from your, different situations you have, but I cannot feel and understand such things through virtual visits. So the first preference is to be in person, class. This is for me, just my own answer. But regarding the deficits, and in the meantime, the facilities existing in different countries, especially in Islamic countries, it is not possible at the moment to say that all teachings are possible to do in person classes. This is impossible. So we have to go to this way of virtual learning, distance learning, education. So the answer is that if we need and we have to do this, we must be very, very, very much expert and smart in this field of new science and consider it as a new technique and science that we have to learn. And everybody should be expert in using that. At the moment, if somebody doesn't know about such things, cannot handle just the cell phone mobile, just there are things inside the such mobiles that need at least artificial intelligence information of that person. This is my idea, my opinion.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ibu Tian. Thank you very much, Professor Mohammad Abdollahi. What I learned from our 2 hours discussion this afternoon is very fruitful. And it seems that the OFDL, as it has interactivity, flexibility, accessibility, and also could fulfill to a certain extent the personal needs, it could be the next appropriate choice for all the university in terms of how to continue to break through the, let's say, physical borders, disciplinary barriers, for example, and also technological limitation, identity constraints, and other limitation as a result of shifting from the offline into the online learning. So thank you very much to all the participants. Apologies for all the inconvenience. I know that there are some more questions, but because we are running out of time, so this is the end of the session for the presentation and question and answer. And I will have a quote from Ibu Tian. We need a great design conceptually, operationally, and it makes all the OFDL delivery will leads to educational experience where the cognitive presence, teaching presence, and social presence are there, and the learning is also there. Thank you very much. Back to you, Lidwina.
Thank you, Prof. Gorky. It is my turn now.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank Professor Ojat, Darojat, the president of for supporting our webinar. And also, I would like to express my deep gratitude to Professor Tian Belawati, and then also to Professor Dr. Mohammad Abdollahi, and then also to our moderator today, Professor Gorky Sembiring. And before we proceed to the next agenda, we would like to have a virtual certificate awarding. Virtually, the first one is handed over to Professor Tian Belawati. Once again, thank you very much, Professor Tian Belawati. Of course, we are waiting for your availability for the next webinar. Thank you. And then the second one is handed over to Professor Dr. Mohammad Abdollahi. Once again, thank you very much for accepting our invitation, and then we hope one day we can meet in person. And then I will, the last certificate is awarding to our moderator today, Professor Dr. Maximus Gorky, M.Ed. Thank you very much for handling the webinar very interactively, and it's very important and very interesting. Thank you, Professor Tian, Professor Abdollahi, and Professor Sembiring. And then now I would like to invite all participants attending this webinar to submit your paper to our AAOU journal. And for the information that the AAOU journal is now indexed in Scopus. And then the last and the lead that for the information that we have a privilege to be accepted from the AAOU conference if you are if accepted. And then the last one that once again we would like to invite you that the next AAOU conference will be held in Anadolu University in Turkey. So from now on, prepare yourself with your paper, and then there are two awards that we will be given. The first one is best paper, best practice, and the last one, young innovator. So everyone, you are all invited to attend the conference. Once again, thank you very much for the speaker, the moderator, and all participants, and also to all supporting staff here in the AAOU Secretariat. Don't forget to complete the feedback. It is one of the requirements for all participants to have the certificate. Once again, thank you very much and have a nice day. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Muhammad. Thank you, Prof. Mohammad.
Thank you too. Thank you all.
Bye.